Let's talk about how to master your money instead of your money mastering you, or maybe the lack thereof. You've been there, I've been there, and it's miserable. You are grinding away in this never-ending cycle of work, get a dollar, pay a dollar out to debt or other bills, work, make a dollar, pay that dollar out, and you never get ahead. If anything, it seems like the credit card bills are getting bigger, the grocery bills are getting bigger, but your paycheck never gets bigger. So you end up getting further and further and further behind. It is a miserable feeling to feel like I work so hard, I've got nothing to show for, I never get ahead, and all I seem to be doing is digging a deeper hole. I've been there, I've done that, it's not fun. I know you've been there too, but hear me out. There is an escape from this. There really is. And some of what I say today may sound too simplistic, but it's not. This is how I did it. This is how I escaped that grind, how I escaped the cycle of digging that hole and never getting ahead. Now I live a life I love, and you can live a life you love too. Let's escape the regular grind and build a life we love. The first step is to honestly and truly understand your current financial situation. This is an area that we often struggle with because we want to bury our head in the sand and not really admit how bad it may be. And we may actually be surprised when we do this and find out it's better than we thought it was. So this is worth doing. First, we want to assess our financial situation. What is our true income? What does it look like? We get income from multiple sources, especially if you're running a side hustle. There's multiple ways you're making money. But even aside from a regular job, if that's all you have, there's other ways that money trickles in, and it's really good to understand what these avenues of money are. Once we have a great understanding of what our financial income looks like, hey, and if you have trouble putting that all together, I do actually have, I'm going to link these down below, an income worksheet that you can work on to write down what your income sources are throughout a month to get a real picture of what it looks like. It's really wise to write it all down, take a look at it, and truly understand it. So I'll leave a link in the description to get these forms. I've got some forms I'm going to talk about that's going to help you through this. So work through the income worksheet to get an honest picture of your income. Next, let's get an honest picture of your debt. Look at all the places you have debt: credit cards, car loans, student loans, mortgage. You name it, you may have it. The link that I leave will have a link to all of these forms. So there's a form there where you could actually list all of your debts and figure out what they all are and what they all look like, what those monthly payments are. So now you have a true picture of what your income looks like and what your current debt load looks like. The next thing that we need to do is get a real picture of what our monthly expenses look like. Now, this isn't necessarily a budget yet, but on the link, there is a budget worksheet. Grab that worksheet and let's do this exercise on the budget worksheet. Because the budget worksheet, I've got one here. It's going to list income sources, and then it's got pages of expense categories. So what you'll do is you'll work through this pages of expense categories to help you find all of your expenses. What you'll do with this one initially is go back through the last 30 days of your bank statements, credit card statements, all your bills, and write them all on this budget worksheet, because this will give us a true, honest snapshot of what our current expenses look like. Once we understand what our expenses are, now we've started to really formulate this picture. Now we've got an idea of our income, we've got an idea of our debt, and we've got a true picture of what our monthly expenses look like. Now we can see how they line up. Does our income match what our current expenses look like? Usually we find that our expenses slightly outpace our income. That, my friend, is a problem, and we need to work on that. And I know you've heard this before, blah, 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 but don't take it as blah, 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 because now we can really get into the meat of how to finally escape this grind, this never-ending cycle, and start building a life you love. So now that you have all of your income, all of your expenses, and all of your debt figured out, we can work from here. Building a budget is something that is necessary. Yes, I know you may have tried this before, but it can work for you. There are multiple ways to do this. You can print out another one of these forms if you want. I'm going to toss that one off to the side for now, but you can print out another form and look through what your expenses are and then start to create a realistic budget based on your prior expenses. There are some categories where you know you're overspending and it's time to pull those back a little bit. Pull them back into realistic category. One category that frequently gets out of control is eating out, because it is so easy to just go eat out and not worry about cooking or taking care of food because it's so time consuming. And besides, hey, sometimes the restaurant just has what we want. So you can look through this and really start to figure out what it looks like to start making a few little cuts here and there that will still allow you to enjoy your life, but stop digging a deeper hole. And on this link, there's going to be a lot more information about how to do this. So I'm not going to go all the way through it in great depth. Go to the link and grab that information and start really doing this because it works. All right, so now once you figure out what that actual budget can look like, where you're actually spending less than what you're making, that way you can get ahead. Now you need to figure out how you're actually going to implement this. This is key. Just creating a budget is useless, but creating a budget and then utilizing it is helpful. So how do we do this? Well, one, we can track every single expense, like get a notebook and every page represents one of those budget categories. And every time we spend something, we write it on the appropriate page and we keep a tally of how much money we have left for that category. Another way is, you've heard of this, is called the envelope method. The envelope method is you put cash in envelopes. Each envelope represents a budget category. And when you pay for an expense, say groceries or eating out, that money comes from that envelope. And once that envelope is out of money, that category can't have any more expenditures that month because that category is out of money. These are some great ways to control those expenses. Another way is I use an app called You Need a Budget, or YNAB. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well, just so you can look at that. So YNAB is sort of like the electronic version of an envelope. You can track all your expenses in there. It can connect to your bank accounts and credit cards and all that to automatically grab expenses and categorize them so that you can see how much money is left in each category. So just like an envelope, you can look, ooh, I want to eat out tonight. Oh, eating out. Already spent all that money. Can't eat out tonight. And you know exactly how much money you have. And that way you can stay on track with your spending. So another thing to think about with budgeting is that budgeting is not set in stone. So many times we get frustrated with our budget because we made a budget and we can't stick to it. Well, maybe it's time to adjust. But when we adjust, we can't just add money to a category because we're not just making more money. So we need to adjust the categories to fit our realistic life. So maybe cutting out some money in restaurants was a good idea, but you find you keep overspending it. Maybe we need a little more discipline, but maybe our lifestyle is just going to always eat out. Well, is there another category? Maybe instead of having 5 streaming services, I could cut back 1 to or 2 so that I only have 3 or 4 streaming services, and then I can move some of that money over into eating out to give me a little more room there. There's always a way to make this work. You don't always have to overspend. And one of the cool things when you actually have a budget, like friends ask you to go out with them all the time, go out to eat or whatever, and it's expensive and you're like, I'm on a budget. When you say to a friend, hey, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit in my budget this month, they usually don't argue with you. They're like, oh, okay. I think it kind of catches them off guard. So instead of saying, I don't have money for that, you can say, there's no room in the budget for that right now, or this month, or this week. And they always accept it. They really do. So it also gives you an easy out when somebody invites you to spend money with them and you're trying to stay on track. By having a budget, you can honestly say, hey, it doesn't fit in the budget this month, maybe next month. And they're okay with it. Or they even then come up with a free activity to do. So instead of going out to eat, let's just go for a walk or go to the park or go play pickleball or I don't know, whatever it is. So this really works. When you have a budget, it also becomes your excuse. Now, also at this link, I know I say the link a lot today, but maybe your credit card bills are out of control and you're not sure how to pay them down. That's all here. There's a whole plan there on how to pay down the credit card bills. There's actually a book, Your Money Reset, at that link, and it will walk you through all of these things. Or even what's called a pro rata plan. Maybe you can't get your balanced budget. Maybe it's just not possible. Well, a pro rata plan will show you how to deal with it when you can't get your budget to work with your income. Now that we have all of this, think about this. When you control your money, you can start to build wealth. Now, as you also work your side hustle and build other income streams, now this really starts to magnify. Instead of it all just being spent and disappearing, all of a sudden you start building wealth. You start building savings accounts. You start building investments, because this money isn't being wasted. This money isn't just disappearing. It becomes magical. Money changes completely once you learn how to tell it what to do and how to control it. Money is kind of like water. You try and hold it in your hands and it just flows everywhere and you don't know where it went. But you put it in a jar, you put it in a container, and all of a sudden it starts filling up and you have more than you thought you had. It's really great, and this will really help you escape that grind and build a life you love. So it's time to get on track and start taking control of our money. As fathers, as husbands, as men, we have a duty to care for our families, and part of that is financial. But we often make a false idea that we have to work more to make more to just have the money disappear. That's not caring for our family. Yes, we have to earn money. Yes, we have to care for our family. But part of caring for our family is controlling those finances and building that wealth so that we have the funds and the wealth that we need to properly care for them. I know you can do this. I believe in you. You can stop the ordinary grind and you can build a life you love.